In May of 1989, a Las Vegas television station aired an interview that should have been forgotten within a week. A man sat in shadow, his face hidden, his voice disguised, using the fake name Dennis. He claimed he'd been hired to work at a secret facility in the Nevada desert, a site called S4, hidden near Papoose Lake, just south of the infamous Area 51. And he claimed that inside hangars built into the mountainside, he had seen 9 flying saucers, not experimental aircraft, not drones, craft that, in his words, were not made by human hands. 35 years later, we are still arguing about him. His name is Bob Lazar, and he is either the most important whistleblower in modern history or the most successful liar in the history of ufology. Today, we are going to do something most videos about him never do. We are going to separate the claims from the evidence piece by piece and ask a simple question: what actually checks out? Let's start with the story itself, exactly as Lazar told it. In late 1988, he says, he was hired through the defense contractor EG&G after a recommendation from the famous physicist Edward Teller, the father of the hydrogen bomb. He was flown from Las Vegas to Groom Lake on an unmarked Janet flight, then driven down a dirt road along the dry lake bed to S4, a facility with hangar doors angled into the mountain and camouflaged to match the desert rock. His job title was Senior Staff Physicist. His task was reverse engineering. Specifically, he says he worked on the propulsion system of one craft he nicknamed the Sport Model, a smooth metallic disc about 50 feet across. Inside it, he described a reactor the size of a basketball, fueled by a super heavy element that did not officially exist at the time. He called it Element 115. According to Lazar, this element generated its own gravitational field, and the craft flew not by pushing against air, but by bending space itself. He described security procedures in strange detail: armed guards who pointed rifles at his head during briefings, documents describing the craft as extraterrestrial, and a piece of technology that stuck in people's minds for decades: a security scanner at the entrance that read the geometry of the bones in his hand. It is an incredible story. So the first thing serious investigators did was check who Bob Lazar actually was. And this is where the story takes its first major hit. Lazar claimed he held master's degrees from 2 of the most elite institutions on the planet, MIT and Caltech. Investigators, journalists, and skeptics like the nuclear physicist Stanton Friedman went looking. They found nothing. No enrollment records, no thesis on file, no professors who remembered him, no classmates from either campus who could recall his face. Friedman even found records placing Lazar at a community college in Los Angeles during the very years he was supposedly studying in Massachusetts. Lazar's explanation is that the government erased his records to discredit him. But erasing a degree is one thing. Erasing the memories of hundreds of classmates and professors is another. On the education question, the record is brutal for Lazar, and there is no honest way around it. His personal life did not help. In 1990, Lazar was arrested and later pleaded guilty to a felony charge connected to a brothel he had helped with computer equipment. Media coverage piled on. By the early 90s, for most journalists, the case was closed. A man with unverifiable degrees and a criminal record had told a tall tale about flying saucers. Story over. Except it wasn't, because alongside the claims that collapsed, there were details that refused to. Start with Los Alamos. Lazar claimed he had worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico, home of some of the most sensitive physics research in the country. The laboratory said it had no record of him. But the investigative journalist George Knapp did something simple and devastating. He found a Los Alamos phone directory from the 1980s, and there was Lazar's name listed among the scientists and technicians. Then Knapp found something even better: a front-page article from the Los Alamos Monitor newspaper, dated 1982, about a jet-powered car Lazar had built, and the article described him as a physicist working at the Los Alamos Meson physics facility. Critics point out fairly that the directory included outside contractors and that Lazar was likely employed by a contracting firm as a technician rather than as a staff physicist. But the core fact stands. Years before he ever mentioned flying saucers, Bob Lazar really was working inside one of America's most secure nuclear laboratories. And the laboratory's flat denial that he ever existed there turned out to be false. If they were wrong about that, people asked, what else were they wrong about? Then there is the hand scanner. When Lazar described it in 1989, a security device that measured the bone structure of the hand sounded like science fiction. Decades later, researchers found old government footage from the 1980s and the early 1990s showing exactly such a device called the Identimat, in use at secure federal facilities. Lazar described obscure, real security hardware years before the public had any easy way to know it existed. And then there is the big one. Element 115. In 1989, the periodic table simply stopped short of it. Skeptics said Lazar had invented a fantasy fuel. Then, in 2003, a team of Russian and American scientists synthesized element 115 in a laboratory. In 2016, it was officially named Moscovium and added to the periodic table. Now, here is the part that both sides of this debate love to leave out. The Moscovium we can make survives for less than 1 second before decaying. It is violently unstable, nothing like the stable reactor fuel Lazar described. His defenders argue that a stable isotope could exist in what physicists call the island of stability, a theorized region of super-heavy elements that might resist decay. His critics answer that predicting an element by number is not impressive because physicists had been speculating about super-heavy elements for years. Both points are true. What Lazar got right is that element 115 was real and could be created. What has never been verified is everything he said about what it can do. For 30 years, this stalemate held, and then the world changed around Bob Lazar. In 2017, the New York Times revealed that the Pentagon had been quietly running a program to study unidentified aerial phenomena. In 2020, the Department of Defense officially confirmed that leaked Navy videos of unknown objects were genuine. In 2023, a former intelligence officer named David Grush stood before Congress under oath and claimed the United States has run a secret program to retrieve and reverse engineer craft of non-human origin. Suddenly, the wildest part of Lazar's 1989 story, a hidden reverse engineering program, was being alleged in a congressional hearing room. Lazar himself returned to the spotlight in 2019 in a documentary by filmmaker Jeremy Corbell and a marathon appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast, seen by tens of millions of people. His demeanor struck many viewers, reluctant, tired, almost annoyed at his own fame, and telling the same story with the same details that he told in 1989. Whatever else you can say about Bob Lazar, in over 3 decades, his core account has barely moved. That same year, his business, a scientific supply company, was raided by the FBI. Officially, the raid was connected to a customer investigation involving toxic materials. Lazar's supporters saw a message being sent. The truth of that one may never be known. So where does that leave us? Here is the honest scorecard. His degrees do not check out, and the failure there is total. His job title and his employer at Los Alamos were almost certainly inflated, but his physical presence inside Los Alamos is documented in print. The security technology he described was real. The element he named now sits on the periodic table, and the kind of program he described is now the subject of sworn testimony before Congress. That leaves 2 possibilities, and neither one is comfortable. Either Bob Lazar is a gifted storyteller who wrapped a fantasy around a core of real experience and made a string of remarkably lucky guesses, or a man with faked credentials and a messy past really did see something in the Nevada desert that the rest of us are still not allowed to know about. The evidence, taken as a whole, does not let you close the case in either direction. And maybe that is exactly why, 35 years later, we cannot stop talking about him. What do you think, brilliant liar or inconvenient witness? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into the people and programs at the strange edge of tomorrow, subscribe to Almost Utopia, because the next story is already in the works. Thanks for watching.